Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I have one of my sponsors on today in I80 Gold, and I80 Gold is going through a very significant transition. Ewan Downey is stepping into an advisor role, and Richard Young is taking over the reins, and I wanted to talk to both of them. So, Richard and Ewan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us on your show.
Well, Ewan, you and I have been knocking around the block for a lot of time. You've been pushing hard for over the 20 years that I've known you. You built tiny little Wolfton into a success, making a discovery and then having that taken over. Prior to that happening, you spun out Premier Gold, and Premier Gold, under your stewardship, found what's about to be one of Canada's most important new gold mines. And at I80 Gold, you've put together a tremendous platform for growth, and I guess you're going to take some time and focus on what you love the most, which is exploration. Did I get that all right?
Fairly right. I'm hoping I can work with Richard as long as possible and continuing to work in the exploration front. And I think you said it rightly that I do focus on exploration, and the company's got to the point where we need to execute our growth plan, and just felt it was better that somebody who's a better operator than I am came in to take over the reins, and couldn't be happier with the choice of Richard to come in and take over as CEO.
Well, as far as exploration and development goes, I was mentioning to Richard that I don't think there's a very long list for generalist investors that are starting to get active in the gold stocks to really find a replacement for or something that can compare to I-80 Gold, and especially when you put it in the context of Nevada. So you still got a lot of painting on that picture to paint there, Ewan, with the exploration.
Yeah, well, there's some ongoing exploration this year that I'm pretty excited about, and hopefully Richard and or I will be back on to talk about it in the future. And now we've embarked on a few studies, and I'll let Richard talk to you about some of the things we're doing going forward. But I'm pretty excited for the future.
Yes, and Richard, now you're in the spotlight there as the CEO, and I wanted to first ask you what attracted you to take the position of CEO of I-80 Gold.
Well, that's easy. Stepping back, I think Ewan has done an incredible job of putting this land package together and the discoveries that he's made. I think when you look at gold and you look at gold exploration, there's two names that really stand out, David Lowell and Ewan, as two of the best prospectors for gold that I've seen over the last 35 years. And so you look at what you and the team have put together, and it's not drilled out. There's still more work to be done. We sat with the group and we put together a development strategy. We whiteboarded it. We're now working through it. We'll be sharing it with the market shortly. But there is truly probably you in 25 years of growth within this portfolio. And I'm turning back over to you on that question. It's incredible what you and the team have done and what this portfolio will be over time.
Oh, you're on mute there, Ewan.
Sorry. Yeah, I totally agree. It's Nevada is a very unique place for gold. If you look at some of the monster deposits around Turquoise Ridge that's right on our doorstep at Granite Creek, the Gold Strike mine with Leeville and everything else that's associated with that, and the Carlin Trend, and the Cortez properties with Gold Rush. This is a district that has yielded monster deposits. These aren't just large deposits; they're measured in tens of millions of ounces. Combined at Turquoise Ridge, right where we're drilling right now at Granite Creek, and we're underground doing underground work as well. The upside opportunity here is tens of millions of ounces, not just a million ounces. And those are the type of projects that are really rare to find. And as we've pursued exploration, as you know, over the last 3 years, we've discovered multiple zones and new deposits. The South Pacific Zone, a plus 10 gram new discovery at Granite Creek is wide open for expansion. So I see easily these mines could be producing decades from now and really potentially generational assets.
Richard, I totally concur with you as far as Ewan's talents when it comes to recognizing projects, getting them at a good price, and then enhancing them with the drill rig. But I've been a front row seat because Ewan's various companies have all been sponsors of my shows. So I've been able to have a front row seat. And what Ewan was talking about there, and we've talked a lot about not just on shows, but in the background, because Ewan and I are degenerate explorers. And, one thing that we talk about a lot is continuity. And, you can have high grade, but if it's sporadic and it doesn't hang together, you've got a failure of a mine. And that's something that really stands out for me at McCoy Cove, at Granite Creek, at Ruby Hill, is the combination of grade and continuity.
Well, I would certainly agree with you. And as a financial person, grade is king. And the one thing that we may or may not have really highlighted is not only is this a large gold and silver resource, but it's got great grades through every deposit. And that'll make the difference financially as we now move these projects into production and start generating cash flows from them. The grades are just phenomenal. There have been discoveries that have been made globally that give you a big ounce total, but at very low grade, which makes it very difficult to build and get payback. But these types of deposits with the high grade and the size, as Ewan spoke about, are truly unique. And having worked elsewhere around the world, there's no more valuable gold ounce than a Nevada ounce. So, as we move forward and bring these projects into production, the valuation will be very good because it is Nevada. And as Ewan pointed out, and you pointed out, there's really no better place to be exploring and producing gold than Nevada. The infrastructure's in place. They've got the people, mining-friendly jurisdiction, strong rule of law, and just massive deposits.
You touched on something there that I think not a lot of people realize is the size. Currently in the inventory, I-80 has about 14.5 million ounces of gold, but there's been a tremendous amount of drilling done since those past resources were compiled. And putting a number on that with all the additional drilling on its own, I don't know if the market is really understanding what 14.5 million ounces means, let alone all the drilling that's gone in to increase the size.
Yeah, I think if you look at that ounce total, I think it's just scratching the surface. As I said, every deposit that we hold in our portfolio remains open for expansion. When we complete the definition drilling at Cove, There's the opportunity to continue drilling underneath the pit to add ounces to that inventory. We just drilled a pretty big step out at Granite Creek to the north, towards Turquoise Ridge, that we're pretty excited about, and should be, and we really extended that hole to look at the whole stratigraphy. So there's big opportunities in the state. I think even our projects, even though there are deposits, are underexplored. The fact that we made the Hilltop discoveries only less than 2 years ago, right beside an existing pit, speaks to the opportunity here. And the polymetallic deposits at Ruby Hill are not yet part of our 43-101 resource, and they're getting fairly sizable. So I think that alone will add a lot of gold equivalent, obviously, because some of those deposits have gold, but some are lesser rich in gold. And also the South Pacific zone is not being fully delineated and brought into our resource. And we're looking at some of the other oxide deposits within our portfolio that are not currently part of our resource as well. So there's significant upside in just the total ounces that this company will hold, given what we've done over the last 2 or 3 years, as you pointed out. But also looking outside of that, there's tremendous exploration upside as well.
Well, as far as the sort of highlights of each project, at McCoy Cove, you've got what looks like is a 1.5 million, 2 million ounce type deposit of high grade gold, one of the highest grade gold resources in North America, especially at least in the United States for sure. At Granite Creek, I'm blown away at how it is forming as you go towards the north. It's almost like a keel of a boat. Over here at the tip of that end, you've got near the historical mining, and where, by the way, where you guys are planning on doing some test mining. But then it gets bigger and deeper as you go towards the north. And as you go towards the north, you got a 25 million ounce monster in the same kind of rock, the same kind of structural story. And then at Ruby Hill, I mean, this is just phenomenal to have the styles of mineralization. You've got Carlin gold, you've got the CRDs, you've got the skarn deposits, you've got the potential for sulfide deposits. To have that all compacted into such a close area that you go this way and you got one style of deposit, you go that way, you got another, you go this way, any direction you go, it's all tightly packed. That combination of those three projects is just spectacular. I'll leave that to either one of you to address. Richard, was that part of your excitement about getting involved with I-80 Gold? Did I touch on some of them?
Well, you sure did. But the one point that neither of you two have highlighted is that all three of these projects are existing mines with infrastructure already in place. And in some cases, the permitting is very easy and very little is required. Other cases, a little bit more. But, you know, you're looking at 3 past producing gold mines that you would have probably produced somewhere between 5 and 10 million ounces between the 3 of them in the past. I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's a significant number, and it's significant infrastructure that's already in place. So, you know, we don't, or we will not have the type of capital numbers that you see with so many projects that are currently in development or slated to come forward.
And most of those, and Ewan and I have talked about this is in the past, both he and I pay attention to the Lassonde curve. And, you know, most of the projects that are in that development window, they've got a very, very long window. And because of what you just described there, plus all the processing facilities, that development discount window becomes very short. And then you've got the potential to be in the sweet spot of the development discount window when you transition 3 projects into production. Those are combinations that are hard to find in development gold base metal development companies. And again, especially in Nevada.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, as Richard said, if you look at the infrastructure that's in place, though the market perceives that we need a fair amount of capital, which is the case, it is significantly less capital than will be required if we had to put in new roads, new power lines, re-permit, put in tailings ponds, put in heap leach facilities. For the most part, every one of these is fully developed, and that brings the capital down significantly. And our expectation is once we complete the build out, the size of this annual production will be similar to that of Greenstone that Premier was acquired for. And Greenstone's capex was 1.5 billion, which is multiples of what we expect the total capital is to do 3 operations. So I think it's painted a little bit wrongly that yes, we need capital. Every development company does, but the quantum of that capital is not what you typically expect for an operation. And I think that's what's being missed by the market still.
Plus, you've got the time. Most development companies have big capex and a long time to get returns on that capex. Here, you've got a very narrow development discount window with all the assets that you put together.
Yeah, the
Oh,
the time from first exploration hole usually to mining operation can be in excess of a decade. I'll use Greenstone as an example. We acquired it in 2008. Proof of concept occurred in 2008 that we likely had a good open pit project. And it just went into commercial production here in 2024. So 16 years from start to actually getting the project up and running. The permitting process took many years. And I think that's the one massive benefit of this project portfolio that I-80 has put together is the fact that these are permitted mine sites with grid power, roads. They, for the most part, have plan of operations in place. There's a heap leach, a conventional mill, and an autoclave at Lone Tree. There's a gold processing plant and a heap leach existing at Ruby Hill. So these are not projects where we're going to spend the next 5 or 6 years going through the regulatory process to get approvals just to start construction. And I think that's what puts this company well ahead of the curve when you look at our ability to become a significant producer.
Richard, before we started, we were having a little bit of a chat about the quality of the assets, but this topic we're talking about now, 10 years, I think, is optimistic in a lot of cases nowadays. You've been in operations and you keep a good eye on the industry. I think that could be stretched out to 15 to 20 years in that development discount window. So to have the assets that I-80 has and that short development discount window and right at the cusp of the sweet spot has to be very exciting for you. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Exciting is an understatement. Look, there just aren't opportunities like this. You've got the infrastructure and the personnel, short permitting windows. It is truly unique. And, I think that over the next 60 days, hopefully we'll be able to articulate a path forward and not just simply for the 3 sulfide underground projects through that hub and spoke strategy with the autoclave. But, there's 5 oxide deposits. So, which means they're amenable to heap leaching in Nevada, which is very low capital. It's just there ultimately will be more oxide production potentially than sulfide production. I know the market's focused on those three sulfide underground operations, but and this is just going to get bigger. You've got base metal, you've got more refractory open pit material beyond. There are just so many assets that are going to be moved into production over the next 5, 10 plus years. It's all about sequencing those and bringing those to market. But it is a unique portfolio that I don't think any other gold company has today.
Wow, and
And
I'm glad you brought that up because Ewan and I have talked about this in the past. Some of the transitions that are happening now in Nevada, for past 4 or 5 decades, it's all been about oxide deposits. But the state has been pretty picked over. We have seen a very exciting discovery by Anglo in a covered environment in the Walker Lane Trend with their silicon and their Merlin discoveries. But it's becoming much more difficult to find and have high quality oxide ounces. And so Ewan and I have talked about in the past about how, if you want to keep mining gold in Nevada, it's going to have to transition below the oxides into the sulfides. And what you just described there is that I-80 kind of has the best of both worlds.
yeah, if I could take a step in the past, so I used to work at Barrick. Barrick had the Gold Strike property. At one point, it was producing 3 million ounces a year from open pit and underground. And of course, Newmont's always been a big player in Nevada. And then Getchell came up for sale, Turquoise Ridge, and I think, both Newmont and Barrick thought that might be the last discovery and the big discovery in the state. Roll forward and look what Ewan's done, So, it is an unbelievably endowed state with a very supportive government and permitting groups. And the workforce and the infrastructure to support mining is really second to none. And so, it's just that there's a reason why a Nevada ounce of gold is more highly valued than an ounce in any other jurisdiction in the world.
The proverbial Nevada premium.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here and then leave you guys with to make a couple of comments. But as I've been talking to Richard and Ewan, it really makes me think that what Ewan and his team have put together, it's like a painting, and I think that this painting is a fine artwork. And now they put Richard in to finish up the final touches on that painting. And I think that this story, as Richard has alluded to, will have many, many years, generation maybe, of production ahead of it. And not a lot of Nevada stories can say that. So that would be my synopsis of everything. I'll let you and Richard give their closing comments.
You and I would turn it over to you first.
Well, I just like the press release says, I'm very proud of the portfolio we put together, the team we've put together, the exploration success we have, and I believe the company will continue to have significant success in that regard going forward. But I think we highlight it in our corporate presentation. It's time for this company to turn exploration success into operational success, and I don't think that necessarily I'm the guy who builds the operation. It's all I put together a team, but really operations are different than exploration. It takes a different skill set, and Richard's got just a tremendous track record. If you look at the recent companies he's run, the ultimate outcome has been very good. Most recently, just months ago, Allan almost took over his last company. So I think I think we're going to make a good team going forward, and I look forward to working with Richard very much.
Richard?
Well, Ewan, thank you for that. And the last point that I would make is that, often when you look at discoveries that are made today, there's some challenge with them, whether it's location, it's a mining risk or a processing risk. Somehow Ewan's found high-grade deposits in Nevada that don't have any significant mining, processing, or permitting risk. I'd ask you to continue to find more deposits like this, but it is truly unique. All of these projects are buildable, and there's always some complexity in mining, but these have very low either development or operating risk associated with them. Very typical to Nevada, and we've got 40 years of experience mining these types of deposits, and we got the people to do it. So it's going to be, I think ultimately very smooth as we bring these deposits into production, and they're going to do what we believe they'll do. And we look forward to sharing the various technical reports that are currently underway with the market that will show the tremendous value of each of these deposits, and then globally how this will become I-80 a mid-tier gold producer or better over the next 5 to 10 years.
And I got one more closing go. And to be doing that when gold is now at $2,600 an ounce, and Ewan and I have talked a lot about the debt problem, the death spiral of debt, and that that's only going to get worse and put pressure on the U.S. dollar, on the downward pressure, and pressure on the gold on the upward pressure. So to be coming to market with these assets in this time, with the outlook going forward, I wish that they could figure out the debt problem. I have no faith whatsoever in the politicians to do anything about it except make it worse. And so I think we're coming into a wonderful time where we're going to be going back to the gold standard, and to have these assets in a world that's going back on the gold standard is phenomenal. You and your big gold bug, you got to have something to say.
Well, I think we've both collectively been banging that drum for the last year that the debt of the Western countries is really coming to roost. The servicing of that debt with increased interest rates is just making it worse, and that the U.S. dollar is being bid up as I guess the best of a bad basket of currencies. And the environment, I actually predicted that we'd see $2,700 gold by the PDAC. It was a little early, but I think it's coming very shortly. And I know you've been talking the same. And 12 months ago, a lot of people thought we were crazy to be saying that we're going to see $2,500 to $2,700 gold this year. And here we are. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us at 3,000 next year. And with that, ultimately, we will see your typical gold market. It's kind of been remarkable that other than really the senior producers and the mid-tier producers, the developers are still in the penalty box in this market, and so to speak, and the small explorers who would typically blast off in this market, the 5 centers turn into 20 centers overnight, is just not happening. But I predict it will happen, and we're on the cusp of something really good for this sector.
I think there's only 2 solutions to the debt, Ewan, and both of them are good for gold. You either default on the debt or you go back to the gold standard. take your pick. Either one of them is good for gold. Richard, what are your
Yeah, the one
comments?
final, yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with both of your statements, but the one thing that I would say that I think is as equally as important is that if you recall, we had a great gold run from, was it 2010 through 2013. And the gold equities didn't do great because you had tremendous inflation in costs through that period with China exploding. The difference this time around is that we are looking at a synchronized global slowdown, I think, in the economy, and China is no longer pushing commodity prices up the way they did a decade ago. And so what you saw with the Q2 results for operating gold mining companies, and you'll see in Q3 and beyond, is you're going to see tremendous margin expansion. And the leverage that these gold stocks have and we will have is significant. And you mentioned earlier that the junior producers and explorers, have not started to see any bid. It is still true of the seniors. The entire sector is trading at historic low NAVs because generalists continue to play the momentum of the S&P and the NASDAQ. But as the US and global economy start to slow down, there will be a rotation into more defensive areas like gold. And the gold equities are going to see, significant growth in earnings and cash flow quarter over quarter for the next number of years.
Well, you look at something like a Alamos or a Agnico Eagle, record free cash flow quarter after quarter. They're increasing their production, they're decreasing their costs. They can compare to any industry now. And I don't think there's many opportunities out there for investors like the gold stocks, and especially the ones that are coiled springs like I-80 and other developers with high quality assets. We're in a magical time right now that I don't think everybody really understands. But I think the magic is going to start to happen for the developers and the high quality exploration companies because the industry needs more of it.
300%.
Thanks, guys. We got to do this again. I enjoyed talking to both of you at the same time. Ewan and I have been talking for 20 years together. I-80 is just a phenomenal story that he's put together after a career of putting together successes. And I still believe strongly, Ewan, that this will prove to be your biggest success story. And so I'm glad to hear that you're still going to be involved. And don't forget our audience here at Rocks and Stocks News, because we always like hearing from you, Ewan, and now Richard is a great 1-2 punch.
Thank you, Allan. And you were one of the first ones to pick up on Wolfden way back when, and up in the Arctic, and yeah, it's been a long time. Really appreciate your support you've had for our companies over the years.
Well, and that goes two ways, Ewan, and I hope you can you enjoy the part of the business that you and I love so much, which is exploration, because you certainly have a platform there, not just to build a mine on, but to grow and enhance with the drill rig and on multiple targets. So as an exploration guy, I don't think you can find something better than I-80 Gold anyways.
Probably not.
Thanks, Richard. Really nice meeting you. I'm going to close it up. Folks, there is I-80 Gold. It's only 3 years old, folks, and it's been in a challenging period for the last year and a half. And I think it's been caught in sympathy with the industry. But I recently made it my top turnaround story. And I believe that the first thing you got to do is stop seeing it go down, which has recently happened. And we're coming into such a great environment for the price of gold. And now the company has Richard, which, has, as Ewan said, a long history in the development side of things. So together, they've got the best of both worlds. They've got a great exploration story, an ability to enhance the assets with the drill rig. Richard has on his side of the plate a great platform to build an important Nevada mining company. And I think that as we go forward, the company has never been in a better position for growth. As always, bear in mind they are a sponsor. I create content, but what they don't pay me to do is my opinion. My opinion's based on 30 years of experience in this business. And I think Richard made a similar point that I would make, which is how it's really difficult to find a company with this group of assets in Nevada. I think that's going to be a launch point for the company. So I'm looking forward to future interviews with Richard and Ewan. And on that note, have a great day. Do your homework, speak with your financial advisor, and we'll talk to you soon.